Hello, welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue talking about the Cold War, and we're going to talk about a few crises that happened in the Cold War as we kind of get more into it in the 1950s and early 1960s. And we'll kind of end with the height of the Cold War, which is the Cuban Missile Crisis. All right. So in 1952, World War II general and hero Dwight D. Eisenhower won the election and he became president. He was very popular. He was seen as kind of like a grandfatherly figure, which is definitely what the country was kind of wanting at this point, some traditional leadership. Also, when he took office in 1953, the world got another new important leader. Joseph Stalin died in 1953 after many decades of leading the Soviet Union. And so the new Soviet premier is going to be Nikita Khrushchev, this guy right here. All right. Pretty immediately, Eisenhower is going to have to deal with the growing Cold War, right? And we've already talked about it a little bit, with the Korean War, with what's going on in Europe. We also see some issues here in the Middle East as well. There's this fear of, possible communist influence in the Middle East, and that makes us very concerned, of course, right? Because there's a lot of resources in the Middle East that we and our Western allies want to keep access to, namely oil, right? And so in 1953, the CIA, as well as some help from some other countries like the British, helped to overthrow the democratically elected leader in Iran. There was some hints that he was leaning, towards taking away access to oil for the British, the Americans, maybe leaning towards having a relationship with the Soviets. So we were very concerned about this. So we helped to do this kind of secret overthrow. We're going to install this guy who's named the Shah, all right, who is not very popular. He becomes kind of this very strict dictator. However, he's not communist, right? So he's A-OK in our book. And this is going to create some resentment towards the US, as you can imagine. And we'll see this culminate in something we'll talk about later, the 1979 Iranian Revolution, all right? And out of this, we see in 1957, Eisenhower, what we see the Eisenhower Doctrine, where Eisenhower is going to specifically pledge military and economic aid to the Middle East, to countries that are threatened by communist aggression, all right? And we'll see this is the beginning of a very long relationship and intervention and influence of the United States in the Middle East, which we know pretty much continues to this day. One thing kind of in response to this, in 1960, many Middle Eastern nations form OPEC, which is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. You can see some of the key founding nations here, mostly Middle Eastern, African, and then we also have Venezuela over here. All right. And essentially what OPEC is a cartel. They get together and control oil prices and how much oil is produced and bought and sold and whatnot. In more recent years, they've gotten a lot of competition. They did have a really strong hold on the market for many, many decades, but they've gotten a lot more competition because countries like Russia and the United States actually have become pretty big in the oil producing game as well. In 1956, Eisenhower is going to win re-election here, as you can see, although the South still solidly Democratic. All right. And in his second term, we'll see the beginning of the space race, another hallmark of the Cold War, similar to the arms race, although not quite as scary. And this really starts here in October of 1957 when the Soviets launched the very first satellite to orbit Earth. And this was October of 1957. And this was a huge shock to many Americans. And it really kind of jolted us into action. We've been kind of tooling around with, rockets and satellites and a little bit of, space exploration and whatnot. but we hadn't accomplished anything near what the Soviets had accomplished. So we got a little scared. All right. So this is going to launch what we call the space race. In response to Sputnik, Congress is going to do a couple things. In 1958, they're going to pass the National Defense and Education Act, which is going to provide a ton more funding coming from the federal government for research in science, especially, and also for public education, again, especially for math and science, right? The Soviets here have obviously proven they're really good mathematicians and scientists, right? So we need to compete, basically. And then in 1958, also NASA was established, and this was basically to do research and development of rocketry, missiles, and space exploration. And they have bases in the Sun Belt, of course. Their main kind of places of operation are, of course, in Florida and Texas. All right. What we see is the Soviets really get all the early victories in the space race. They win a lot of those early battles. They put the first man in space. A couple of those early things, but we end up winning the war, of course. The big one, the getting the man to the moon. This happened on July 20th, 1969. All right. And of course, no other country has put men on the moon. The US has put 12 Americans on the moon in all of our moon landings. And apparently NASA is going back quite soon. So we'll see if any more people get to the moon. In addition to this, we also start to see some rumblings down in Cuba. Of course, the US has had this long relationship with Cuba going back, to the Spanish-American War in 1898, and even before that as well. We've long had our eye on Cuba. We've had this close relationship. And in 1959, Fidel Castro led a revolution in Cuba that ousted the US-backed leader, who again was also kind of a dictator, Batista. And he is going to lead this revolution, Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, and they're going to establish a pretty strict communist government, of course, with Fidel Castro in, the leadership there, and they become a satellite to the Soviet Union. You can see Castro and Khrushchev here, arms and friendship and whatnot. And this is very, very bad for us, right? Again, it's another loss for containment. It's communism right in our backyard, right? Cuba is only 90 miles off the coast of Florida. So this really increases and kind of ramps up tension in the Cold War. The US is going to officially cut diplomatic ties with Cuba, and then they will enact a complete trade and travel embargo. And millions of Cuban refugees end up coming to the United States. All right. So like I said, this was a big blow to containment, right? Communism and Soviets were much too close for comfort. And so in 1961, we have the newly elected John F. Kennedy. He's going to announce this plan called the Alliance for Progress, basically kind of like a Marshall Plan for Latin America to promote growth and also, prevent the spread of communism. And what we see throughout the Cold War is basically the US, similar to in other parts of the world, intervened, as you can see here from this map, in many Latin American countries, all right, throughout this time period, to prevent the spread of communism, right? And we would come in and support governments in Latin America that weren't communist, but maybe weren't the best. And this is after already a long history of intervention going back to the Spanish-American War and the early 20th century, right? With Roosevelt and Taft and Wilson. So we see kind of a repeating pattern of that, and it creates kind of growing resentment in Latin America towards the US. We see actions here in Mexico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Grenada, Panama, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Guatemala, El Salvador, Chile, all sorts of places here. All right. So as we said, John F. Kennedy was elected president, right? Eisenhower is going to follow that 2-term limit that is actually now constitutional with the 22nd Amendment. All right. Um, and John F. Kennedy is going to narrowly, you can see very narrowly, win victory. It's only 49.6 to 49.7 if you look at the popular vote. All right. He's this younger guy, right? He has this beautiful wife and young children. He kind of just edged out Richard Nixon here. One thing that really helped him win is they appeared in the first televised presidential debate. And Kennedy appeared much better on TV. He was much more comfortable. He was very good looking. And so he came across much better on this new medium of television than Richard Nixon did. Although we know this guy will be back, right? Kennedy is going to announce his plans. He's going to call his domestic and foreign policy plans the New Frontier. He gave this very inspiring inaugural address where he wanted to inspire young people. He very famously said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." He also promised to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade, which is a very ambitious goal considering we had been losing a lot of those early space race battles. And he's going to start the Peace Corps, bringing American skills to underdeveloped countries. And the New Frontier is basically his domestic policy plans, urban renewal, healthcare, things like that. Billions of dollars for NASA, right? It's going to take a lot of money to put a man on the moon. Also, he calls for tax cuts to stimulate the economy. However, Kennedy is not going to be able to do a whole lot of these plans because very quickly he's going to have to face some Cold War issues. Excuse me. In 1961, we see the Bay of Pigs invasion. This was a CIA-backed plan. It was actually approved under the Eisenhower administration, but it took place right after Kennedy took office. It was this failed attempt to overthrow Castro. It was a big mess. It served to increase tensions further and is going to lead us right into the Cuban Missile Crisis. About a year and a half later, the US discovered Soviet weapons, Soviet nuclear weapons in Cuba. All right, again, Cuba being very close to the US, within, distance of all of these major US cities. All right. So in response to this, JFK is going to install a quarantine or kind of naval blockade of the island. For 13 days, we have this very high level of tension between the Soviets and the Americans as they try to negotiate, right? Khrushchev and Kennedy are kind of going back and forth here while the fate of the world hangs in the balance, right? Because by this point, we all have enough nuclear weapons to completely destroy each other. Thankfully, the crisis is going to end with a compromise. The Soviets removed the nukes from Cuba. The US ended that quarantine, promised not to invade Cuba, right? And then the US is also going to secretly remove some missiles from Turkey that were very close to the Soviets, which they didn't like. This is the closest we ever came to a hot war and possibly a nuclear war. All right. After this, a hotline was established from the Kremlin to the White House. And after this, we start to see a cooling or easing of tensions. This is kind of the high point, the climax. And then we start to see tensions relax a bit for a time. And this is what we call détente. All right. So we'll end there. This was Cold War Crises.